Hey, hey, hey. What is going on, world? How are you? It is your favorite deprescribing pharmacist, Dr. Delon Canterbury here. I'm here today. Um, Grateful, refreshed, thriving, happy, joyous on another day walking this beautiful earth. But life has been good. Life has been good. I have not. Uh, I've been live in a minute. So I wanted to kind of give you all a rundown on what's been going on, what's been good in the world of not just geriatrics, but the aging industry, what's been going on with me after having this awesome time spent away on leave to reflect a bit more on where I'm seeing the vision of my company going, the Deprescribing Accelerator, of course, but more importantly, where I'm seeing uh, different integrations of deprescribing being used across the healthcare landscape. So, welcome back to another episode of the red pill versus the blue pill. If you don't know, this is your first time tuning in. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. But I am Dr. Lon Canterbury. I'm a board certified geriatric pharmacist, founder of GeriatRx. Created this company about 4 years ago, feeling that we as pharmacists weren't really being used to the best of our abilities when it came to our abilities to consult and motivate and advocate and honestly just do so much for our clients and patients. So I created this company with the sole intent of reducing harmful medication use in older adults. I felt there had to be a better way. And so I created this company to provide a bit of clarity, relief to those overwhelmed caregivers, to those uh, senior facing businesses that deal day to day with these crazy med lists and don't really know what to do about them, apart from, say, ask your doctor. And we know that model just isn't working clearly because we have so many older adults being sent to the hospital each day. 750 are sent every day to the ER in the US because of mismanaged medication. So I'm not here to harp on that. Most of y'all know what I talk about, but this is a moment where I wanted to give and share not only some projections and predictions I have with where I foresee deprescribing going within the aging industry, but some key takeaways I've also gained from this journey. And honestly, this is a journey. It's still a journey. A lot of it has to do with self-awareness, me versus me, mindset shifting. But I mean, the real fun stuff is being a resource to people consistently, like from anywhere, like anyone, how many of you, your expertise, it doesn't matter if you nurse, doctor, social worker, there's a point in your family where you become that guy and everyone out the blue texts you, asks you, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And in my world, we get tons of, drug interaction questions and, we're thinking about starting this medication. What are your thoughts? So it's so cool to be in a space where I can always be that trusted go-to person for anyone, anywhere, at any time, to give my opinion. I mean, people value what we've sacrificed in our studies. Hey, Noreen, thanks for joining. But why not do it in a way that just fulfills the passion that I feel sometimes healthcare misses out on a little bit. So today I want to talk about more on the future of deprescribing. But I think first I have to just send so much of my heartfelt thanks for those who gave me some grace for my time off in recently turning 35. So that was an amazing win for me, a huge celebration. And to celebrate 4 years in business, which God knows, I even know it would be it would last this long. but after a while, your mindset just knows and wills it to happen. So I'm so grateful. Honestly, not just for the wins, but for the dark days where I didn't know what tomorrow would look like. And so it makes you, when you're afloat or consistent or thriving, and to be much more appreciative for what you have. So gratitude will always be the season. One thing I want to share really is how much joy I'm having really talking about and educating people around the power of deprescribing. And it isn't just stop everything is bad and raise the alarms. uh, we just have a knee-jerk reaction to always need a medicine, right? So I love seeing that, truthfully, people are shifting to get more personalized care. People want someone who's going to work with them one on one, and I mean consistently, like just to have that peace of mind, that clarity, that touch point, that connection. I mean, just being home with my mom for a couple weeks in April, to celebrate her birthday, and her sharing with me that just trying to get scheduled for a follow-up, man. I mean, it's like 6 months out, and like this is a really widely popular health system. Actually, it's Emory Health System, my alma mater, Emory University. But she's having such a hard time just trying to be seen for some follow-ups, for some diagnostics, just to see a specialist. It's going to be 6 to 8 months, and then sometimes on their end they just cancel without telling them, like a few days before, and it's like, oh, sorry, so can you book 6 months later just to get an analysis on a lab result? I mean, the stuff we are doing just ain't working. And the future tells me that when I start becoming that sandwich generation slash older adult in 20, 30 years, the future tells me that we ain't got enough people to take care of our current aging population. We're literally in an aging population dearth of clinical providers, and even less so that are trained on deprescribing and understanding which medicines are most harmful and may be contributing to those falls or cognitive impairment or low sugars or whatever the case may be. So if we're having such a need now and we're literally just saying, let's just keep things going, business as usual, healthcare is booming, people are making a killing off of this pandemic in terms of PBMs and insurers. But the good news is we are seeing HEDIS measures, so the measures that dictate your quality care and almost reimbursement rates when it comes to certain facilities and health systems. We're seeing them more targeted around deprescribing. So this is the first year where they have enacted a measure, a HEDIS measure, tracking the use of benzodiazepines in older adults. I believe they're 65 and up or 67. What they do is look at the last year and a half of how many doses of a certain benzo, and those who don't know, Klonopin, Xanax, those medications have a really high falls risk, and the overuse of them is extremely common in our older adults. They get dependent, man. They get hooked. They don't want to get off of that, and rightfully so when you've been on it for 10, 15 years. And it can be extremely hard to get tapered off of. So people can be a bit hesitant, but I'm so happy to see that HEDIS, or NCQA, National Committee on Quality Assurance, is making this now the standard, or at least a trackable metric, which is how many of our older adults are taking these risky, higher, falls risk meds, and how many of them are actually being dose reduced, throughout their care. And, maybe another piece of that puzzle is whether the health system actually tracks that record, if they actually turn on that metric to report, how many people are doing it, that's another story. But the fact of the matter is NCQA is kind of that gold standard. And so the future practice of medicine will, takes a lot of catch on. They're going to start changing and actually implementing care around that metric. So I think that's super important, seeing that there is essentially a deprescribing HEDIS measure. And so that's something I'm excited about in terms of predictions. Another one that really stood out is the use of hypoglycemics, particularly insulin, and any related hospitalization or low sugar event that leads to an ER visit. And so what they're doing is looking to see if a patient was newly prescribed insulin and whether that insulin may have contributed to, that harmful outcome. And so that's pretty cool to see if someone may have had a hypoglycemic event, goes to the ER, they're going to go back retrospectively and see, how recently was an insulin regimen dispensed and used, and that which may have contributed to that. So it's cool to see that's going to be another kind of a diabetic kind of deprescribing, so to speak, metric. But I think that's going to really propel the advent of using more, chronic care management services, remote patient monitoring, which is another way of having a billable monitored service of basically giving these patients a wearable device to really see, how their sugars are doing. And as we're doing this, we're coaching them, making sure we're testing and staying compliant with that piece. But it's really helpful to see that is what, again, is another tool being tracked. And again, we're looking to reduce potentially here the risk of falls when it comes to sugar. So that's another really important piece. Hey guys, thank you for joining. Hey Consuela, I'm actually talking about something that's in your world as a physical therapist, which is falls risk. We don't like talking about falls, but it's one of the number one concerns in these nursing facilities now. And it's not only cost prohibitive, but it's terrible for our patients. People's lives are shaved by almost 7 to 10 years if there's a major broken hip or fracture. So understanding that what can contribute to those falls could be high blood pressure medications, could be dehydration, could be cognitive impairment, could be cognitive, dementia, frailty, gait issues intrinsic to that dementia. Of course, I mentioned there are also these falls risk medications, but those are the biggest issues right now I'm seeing in these senior care facilities, which are falls and of course wound care, so wound prevention. So making sure that we're rotating people's beds, avoiding those pressure ulcers, which again, a lot of that's an issue now because of staffing shortages. And so there are, again, a lot of people leaving healthcare, period, but even more so in the aging industry. And if we've got people leaving there, then my God, I do not want to retire here if they don't have people to take care of me. I mean, I don't know how many other future, BCGPs will be out there, but to say the least, man, we got a lot of holes and we have too few players to fill all the gaps. But my point is, when we're seeing shifts from NCQA, which literally dictates the quality measures for all of our clinical practices, essentially in hospitals and health systems, you're going to start seeing more of these Medicare Advantage plans and Medicare plans shifting to that metric, and they're going to start enforcing it after a while. Just like how we, track, quote unquote, antipsychotic use in some of these nursing homes, which, has its own can of worms to it. We're not truly tracking those who really need it. And so it kind of can confound, who's doing what if we don't have full transparency. And that is an intrinsic flaw with the way CMS has that law reported when it talks to antipsychotic use in nursing homes. But truthfully, still, people are looking at these numbers. People are looking at how we're going to improve compliance and adherence, because we know there are costs associated when we have preventable medication harm. And that's where I have to give a shout out to Scan Health. And Scan Health is a nonprofit Medicare Advantage plan that's fully committed. And they're widely growing, based out of Cali, but we're seeing them expand now to the Midwest, Texas per se. And they are really focusing on ensuring that patients aren't on these high-risk meds, particularly in looking at COPD, asthma exacerbations, and adequate inhaler use. But they really have a focus on deprescribing. And so that's another cool thing I'm excited to share is, we're in talks currently on rolling out a deprescribing workshop or webinar, yes, geriatrics, that is, with Scan Health to potentially train more of their clinical staff to understand some low-hanging fruit when it comes to some systemic implementation of deprescribing. So putting that into policy is, to me, the gold standard of deprescribing, is where we can get a culture shift from an insurer standpoint to actually kind of reimburse, if not reward, if in a way, for better metrics with less meds. I'm all for it. And I think that's what not only our patients want, but it's what all of our clinicians want. We just don't exactly have the tools or the system, or even at times the monetary funds and effort and resources because of this current model. So I'm excited because if we're seeing, at least Scan Health led by, Sash and Jane, you got awesome people in there like Matthew Din, another pharmacist. Shout out to you guys who are allowing me the platform to potentially, teach to you guys in the future. I got to shout out that because, if there's an insurer doing it, then we're going to start seeing more people come up and start worrying, or at least looking for how we can incorporate more deprescribing nationally. And to be honest, though, that is my goal. My goal isn't to just be the face of deprescribing. It's literally to make the aging industry synonymous with stopping harmful med use. Because I'm just sick of it. We all are. I'm tired of going to these conferences and hearing the same thing. Grandma, 23 meds, something happened. Every time she goes in, there's a new med. No one knows what's going on. And it's not even like these are complex, hard things to catch drug interactions. These are simple, basic, inappropriate prescribing or inappropriate education around medication safety. And it's not to blame anyone. It's just to simply state that the system is what feeds this behavior. And if there isn't a financial incentive to get reimbursed for it, then what can we expect doctors and PAs and NPs who are running these thousands of patients and helping them in their best way possible? How can we expect them to change what they're doing if there isn't any system to support that? And that's what I propose with my company, is to be that support system through the education, the training, the deprescribing workshops, but to show that it doesn't just and start with the doctor or the pharmacist. Like, it literally is going to take an occupational therapist. It's going to take a caregiver advocate. It's going to take the social worker. It's going to take that nurse who's on the floor seeing them with their side effects unmanaged. It's going to take everyone. And that's what the literature touts, you need to have an interdisciplinary model to make this sustainable. Otherwise, we deprescribe, and then they end up, if there's any other situation for any other reason, in a hospital, and they just restart all the medications. And it's like, man, we just wasted that whole last 2-3 months deprescribing. Now they're back on everything. And we gotta close these bottlenecks, man. We just gotta close them. And so I say this because if we're seeing some insurers make this a priority, I'm a happy camper, right? Because essentially, insurers want lower costs. They want lower hospital utilization. They want lower readmission rates. They want the same things a lot of our clinicians want when it comes to some of those. Well, I'm not going to say they want the same thing, but when it comes to at least saving costs from the patient end and on their end, and in some ways there are synergies. Now, what I can also envision are more geriatric pharmacists, more consultant pharmacists, like myself, leaving this, at least the majority of us are in these consultant pharmacist roles, working for these long-term care facilities and assisted living facilities. And that's where a lot of them are. That's where a lot of them, the bread and butter of our geriatric pharmacists are. Not many that I know, in my opinion. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, but I don't know many board certified geriatric pharmacists that are doing one-on-one concierge deprescribing like I am with my company. I don't know many that do that. I know some that are doing more like holistic wellness. I'll shout out Dr. Veronica Riri-Gilly, along with Dr. Melody Heltzer. But I don't know many that are doing it on a community level. Very few. I know many in the LTC long-term care space, and ain't nothing wrong with it, but guys, 93% of our older population live in the community. 93% of our seniors live in the community. So what does that tell you? It tells you that there are not enough people like me servicing people who need to go and do a deep dive on the meds, who want that genetic test to see if there's any interactions with their body, who want that personalized care plan to taper them off with all these meds using your expertise. And you're quarterbacking the effort, but you're giving the quarterback, you're giving the patient, you're giving the caregiver, you're giving the primary care provider all the tools to make it sustainably happen. And that's the beauty of deprescribing, is you're not only showing that value and that impact of improvement, but you're continuously raising that standard of, honestly, trust. The patients just want to be listened to, get the results, and their problem solved, and they want to feel like, yo, it actually worked. And it didn't take 3 years of waiting to be seen by your primary care doctor, or you didn't take forever to get the results. And if we know like majority of medications can be stopped safely with, of course, supervision, then why not just assume that? And so I'm a huge fan of and so yeah, I also have to shout out Dr. Donna Bartlett. So if you haven't checked it out, check out MedStrong. Huge fan of Donna Bartlett. She's, I've been fanning and girling over her for quite a minute, but she's another board certified geriatric pharmacist. Literally wrote the book intended for caregivers as well as other clinicians on how to shed some of those meds. So just like her and I, we are in alignment with the mission of deprescribing and then giving those tools to the patient on how to ask about it. And I tell you, you don't need a PharmD to make it happen. A lot of it is ask these few questions and have an open conversation. And you can fight for your own loved one to get off those meds. You see, the patient is the CEO of their care. I'm not the boss. The patient's the boss. The patient basically hires us. And so if the patient wants what they want, they don't get what they want. We just give them the tools to ask how to do so. But that's where healthcare is going, and healthcare is there's a lot more AI and predictive tools and all that coming on, but people don't want to be on these meds forever, man. The majority of people don't. They want the holistic, healthier, personalized way. And truthfully, if we don't start integrating deprescribing now into our medical schools, into our pharmacy schools, into our nursing schools, into pharmacy tech training, medication administration training, guys, we're gonna just keep being behind. We spend already $500 billion on preventable mismanaged medication because of patients who end up back in the hospital, and that's each year in the country, each year. And what are we doing to address that? What are we doing to address that if our aging population by 2040, 2050 is going to hit 60, 70 mil? When we don't even have Geriatric care providers. We don't even have enough home health companies and nursing homes to even foot all of our aging population now in 2023. So deprescribing is going to become standardized. If it's not by my means as the deprescribing pharmacist with geriatric or the deprescribing accelerator, but if it's not by me, it's going to happen because there's going to be either an act of God and Congress says this ain't working, let's change this. It ain't going to happen. Or the world ends. All I'm saying is this is the number 3 public health crisis in the entire world. Medication harm, prescription harm, inappropriate medication use. And y'all know I love my meds. They have a role. They can work. But we cannot continue this fee-for-service model and assume it's going to get better. We got to have more training and education, and that's what the Deprescribing Accelerator offers. But it's not just the clinical deprescribing piece. It's the how do you monetize it? How do you make it to where, yes, I can go spend my 35th birthday in England, literally touring castles and dragons and pubs, not to brag, but to literally just be present, have fun, and enjoy life. Like, I've been on that bench. I've been on that pharmacy bench. I drove those teams to hit those metrics, to give those shots, to, keep your 90-day script counts up, man. I've played that game way too long. I've been a specialty pharmacy manager. We need more people sick so we can make more money. That was the end of the game. It was like, oh, I was an HIV pharmacist, and it was like, all right, so how do we expand next year? What do you want? More people to have cancer? You want more people to have, like, what do you want? What do you want? You want more people to have transplants so you can get more money? You want more people to have HIV so we can get more scripts? Like, what do you want? So seeing that on that end rocked me in a way where I could no longer maintain this part of the system. I just couldn't do that forever. And I don't want anyone to do that forever. That's not our goal. But I'll have to say that I am extremely excited to see more and more and more and more clinicians talk about deprescribing, especially our holistic health healers. And I'll also shout out to Dr. Christina Fontana, who's having her upcoming healing and healthcare conference in Cincinnati. If you haven't, I'll be attending. I'll be speaking there. Again, talking about deprescribing, but how you can leverage this future where healthcare is going and having less meds in your care. So I'm seeing more and more businesses discussing deprescribing. I'm seeing more pharmacists talk about this. I'm seeing more PAs, nurse providers. I'm seeing it, but we still need it standardized, and we still need it, I would say, embedded into our current health model. And because it's designed not to do that, it's been a little bit tricky to find ways to make it, I would say, insurance reimbursable. But I don't live in that world. I don't want to live in the insurance world. If anything, I want to help insurance metrics. My job isn't to bill insurance to do that. My job is to show people that there are tools in place that are widely accessible that you can employ today to reduce harm in your practice. And that, to me, is what lights me up. And it's why I created my company, GeriatRx. So I foresee a world where we're going to have deprescribing clinics everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Like, just like how you can go and get your teeth cleaned. I literally see practices where there's a social worker, a pharmacist, a provider, a clinical provider, like a billing provider, and they work as a team, and patients come in over medicated, and they come out with a plan, a 3-month, 4-month plan that they continuously monitor and track until that patient gets to that goal. I do see that. I see that being done with the fusion of alternative medicine. I love the concept of integrative medicine, lifestyle medicine, preventative medicine. All of those will become, or at least I wish would become, the standard of care. And I think those are the biggest components of deprescribing is, yes, we got to look for what's harmful, low-hanging fruit with that great med list, but we got to still get back to what drives the patient, what are their goals, what matters most to them. How do we personalize that to where what we're deprescribing may be impeding those goals of care that the patient may want to have? And that's where I'm seeing, honestly, this new wave of, again, functional medicine, integrative medicine, preventative health. All of these are amazing tools and segues to get people off all these meds. So that's what I think is going to become the standard. I believe, especially in our aging industry, the more we educate, at least, because some of our older adults, they've been on it for a while. They don't want to get off, so it's going to take a little bit of reshifting. But I'm hopeful in that we're going to see more of that become the replacement of the Band-Aid approach we've been currently using to care. One prime example, another reason, was with the advent of the United States Deprescribing Network, right? I think they were founded in 2013, but there are deprescribing networks and consortiums all across the world. Yes, we're not the only ones. Europe has one, Canada, there's Japan that has one, Australia, of course, has been one of the leaders of deprescribing ever since. I believe that's where the word was actually coined. And so knowing that there are international conferences, I mean, it was just last year we had the very first international conference on deprescribing in Denmark, and that was phenomenal. I attended virtually. Dr. Donna Bartlett was actually there. She was on stage pubbing her book. I don't get any commissions. I just believe in the mission. And so for us to have that dialogue where we're mixing the software, the AI, the pharmacists, the nurses, the researchers with the academic institutes, the, of course, community-facing pieces of all of this, and even the public health piece. Like, guys, this is a public health crisis. This is a public health crisis. Over-prescribing, over-medicating, medication harm, whatever you want to name it, it is an ongoing public health issue. It's a public health issue. And so if that's an issue now, it's going to be an issue later unless we address it. Because, I mean, we're still dealing with COVID. We're still dealing with an opioid epidemic. And deprescribing can, again, assist in the opioid epidemic. And I think medication-assisted therapies like the Suboxone, the Narcans, getting more access to that, understanding the needs for addressing social proponents of care, right? Social positive traits that keep you out of the hospital, augmenting that. But of course, a lot of this is going to come down to systemic change and culture shifts. And yes, funding. Yes, you're going to need some funding to make all that happen. But I am seeing more and more people lead with deprescribing. I mean, I'm starting to see more businesses kind of emulate what we're doing with geriatrics. I'm seeing more people talk about it with less meds. I'm seeing it, and it's great. I want it. I want people to do this. It needs to be done. But I do envision a world where we're going to have deprescribing pharmacy technicians. We're going to have deprescribing med rep specialists. We're going to have deprescribing social workers. We're going to have deprescribing care managers, people who handle the care for our older adults. We're going to have deprescribing synonymous with aging. And I damn sure promise you, if it don't happen in my lifetime, I mean, it's going to be the next, because it is what I plan on making geriatrics be the standard of care when it comes to deprescribing. So I do have some good news. You guys may remember we had an awesome geriatrician, Dr. Sarah Batar, who came on our Red Pill, Blue Pill couple episodes back, and we discussed the powerful tool that the VA created called the Vione mnemonic or model. And so Vione are all these medications vital, important, optional? Is it still needed? And does every medication have an indication? It's a mnemonic to assess, basically pre-screen which meds are necessary, which are not, before a physician has a consultation with the patient. And basically they're softball which meds to deprescribe before they have that talk. So awesome approach. Literally has saved the VA $160 million in cost avoidance from unnecessary or potentially inappropriate medications. That's millions of prescriptions deprescribed. Well, I don't know if it's millions, but I would say a lot. Since its inception, which I believe was 2016, so about 7 years in the making of that. So Dr. Sarah Buttar, I want to thank her for not only encouraging me and inspiring me, but that model, that methodology, I am going to be piloting. So I have some wonderful news with you all. So I just got word from the US Deprescribing Network that we will be getting our first mini grant, where we will be rolling out the Vione methodology in African-American AME Zion churches. And we're going to focus on educating them around medication safety, yeah, of course, but also doing self-medication analysis. So like some medication management tips. We're going to be talking about some of the more harmful medications we've seen in our African-American population. So guys, let me be the first to tell you that I will be, along with Duke Healthcare and of course the AME Zion HEAL partnership and GeriatRx, we are going to be piloting our first deprescribing study in African Americans. So this is going to be huge. This will be the first one where we'll be using the Vione methodology along with a future component of adding in precision medicine and pharmacogenomics. So I can't wait. We just got the word a week or two ago about it. So, I was on leave a while ago as well. But I just wanted to share that finally with the word. I've only told maybe very few people in person about it, but I'm psyched. It'll be our first pilot. So we're going to get the groundwork going. And so if there are, again, research networks and amazing people like the US Deprescribing Network that are funding this type of effort, we're only going to see more and more in the future. And I've already mentioned that they have another grant that they offer that's looking for reducing benzodiazepines. It's a $120,000 grant funded by the Complementary and Alternative Medicine Institute, but it's still under the US Deprescribing Network. And so they're looking for ways to people use any type of intervention to reduce benzodiazepine use. It could be anything from CBD, it could be therapy, it could be sleep hygiene, it could be Reiki healing, it could be mindfulness, acupuncture, you name it. They're basically trying to use any intervention that's it could be a psychological intervention, social, behavioral. Any of those can be deemed as a substantial study design. And for $120,000, you could potentially roll this out and figure out if this is going to be best for our aging population, which is what the US Deprescribing Network is aimed to target and, of course, approach. So that's my passion. So, hey, I'm sharing this because I need the world to get on board. We got to do more, and it doesn't take, rocket science to get some strategic partnerships, make some friends, get passionate about it, and make it happen. So if I'm, at least as of now, a one-man show, I guarantee you that you can do the very same thing in your world. So I'm excited for another thing. So I guess it'll be the third thing because I'm kind of rambling, but I am extremely excited for the use of deprescribing workshops with pharmacists and non-traditional clinicians, like people we wouldn't think would be a part of the care team. in our normal care model. I not to undermine them, but I see a vision of having community health workers going to people's homes, doing medication assessments, and having like the network of a pharmacist or a nurse, or at least someone geriatric trained, guide along some of those med reviews and look for harm opportunities, or look for, of course, ways of addressing social determinants of health. And we've had that buzzword quite a while. It's been an issue. It's a known issue, especially for people who don't come from backgrounds that necessarily have it all. So I see CHWs being like the touch point, and then it's going to escalate up any deprescribing potential opportunities. And I think that can come from simple questions like, have you had any issues with your meds? Have you had any issues with costs around your meds? Have you had issues taking them? What side effects are you noticing? What are you seeing? And if you make it targeted to whatever health condition you may want. But I see a world of non-traditional partnerships with pharmacists. I see pharmacists, geriatric trained, who are awesome deprescribing experts. I see them working with physical therapists. I see them working on falls reduction projects, not only for their independent practices, but I see them doing that for other businesses, senior facing businesses. I see them doing that in adult daycare homes. I see them rolling this type of service out and having pharmacists, not just a consultant pharmacist checking off on audits and gradual dose reductions and chart reviews, whatever. I'm talking about people going to the community, going to people who need it, and having someone pay you for that directly through a contract, through a service contract, like on retainer. That's what already happens, guys. Like, this is what lawyers do. This is what people do in elder care offices. I see more pharmacists getting creative and shifting this narrative of, oh, hospital, retail, maybe industry if I'm lucky. Like, dude, there's a whole world in the aging industry. Like, I have a directory right here of businesses that you can literally partner with. And this is just directory in Wake Forest. So there's always a directory of aging services somewhere. Don't get me wrong. If you're in some places that don't have it, that's another issue. But my God, a lot of these I'm seeing, we got what? Cancer services. You could be an oncology pharmacist. You can literally contract with them and look for problematic meds and make that a service that you can sell on behalf and have them sponsor you. What am I seeing in here? Shepherd Center, social services, that's for housing, Alzheimer's Association, American Diabetes Association, AHA. Guys, these are all nonprofits that have millions, if not billions of dollars that can pay for you whatever price you want to charge to deprescribe, to contract with and educate their people. Like, this is what I do. This is what pharmacists need to start thinking about, is what's in your backyard and how are you showing up and serving, if that's what you want to do. That's what I want to do. And so why think you have to do it using the hospital or the pharmacy when there are businesses that literally need our expertise now? I'm at a networking event just yesterday, and all I said was, hey, I help seniors get off of harmful medications. And yes, I did tie it to my grandmother, who we know was affected by that. And that's why I created my business. But I mentioned that I help people get off harmful medications. Guys, I got 2 referrals just from that. And the place I said it at wants me to do a presentation on deprescribing. So now I'm going to do a presentation on deprescribing. I'm going to have more patients that I'll have a talk with in the future. And now I'll have potentially future more clients just because I said I'm in the room. Because guess what? No one in the aging industry has ever heard of anyone specifically getting older adults off of pills. It's like I've been the only one for the last 2 years when I'm in these rooms, at least here in North Carolina, or at least at every caregiver conference I go to, and the very few awesome BCGPs I know, I give them all the credit. But in business, we don't exist. There are no pharmacists that do this. There are none. It is me. And an army of people that I'm building with our Deprescribing Accelerator, sure. But to this day, people may wonder, DeLon, why are you traveling so much? Why are you everywhere? I'm not just here to run myself ragged. I'm here because this mission means so damn much to me that I want y'all to feel the same passion I have, or that you may have lost because you see the same problems I do. You see the same problems I do. And the fact that all I say is I help older adults get off harmful prescriptions using deprescribing. In the right room, that's a contract. In the right room, that's a 5-figure deal. And this stuff is fun. This is so fun. Like this is fun to me. Like this is so fun. This is so fun seeing healthcare shift from this hospital-based system to the medical care at home model. It's so fun now, people waking up and seeing, yeah, it ain't working. It's too expensive to go to the hospital. On the hospital's end, that's why hospitals are closing left and right. They're being bought out by private equity. And so there's going to become a fine line where your job, that your current employer, they may not care as much as the patient as you do. They may care more about that bottom line. And if they care about that bottom line, your warm, fuzzy feeling of trying to do the right thing is going to get mired by competing priorities, which is profit margins. And that's not why we're in this profession. That's not why we're in this game. We're in this to save lives. We're in this to touch people. We're in this to have a relationship with people. We're in here to connect with people. We're in here to motivate people. We're here to inspire people. We're here to love on people. We're here to celebrate birthdays with people. And I mean your patients. And I forgot that in my profession. I forgot all that stuff. I was like, what? Patience? That sounds like stress. That sounds like work. Ugh. That sounds like, why am I here? I want to go home. I'm tired. I haven't had lunch yet. I haven't eaten yet. I haven't had a bathroom break. My tech called out, so I don't know. I got to cover my tech. Or we're not going to get a bonus for the 5th year in a row because we're not valued by those private equity stakeholders. Is that what you want? I mean, whatever. That's what you want. Fine. And I don't think everyone has to be a business owner, but if you don't like what you're doing, get the hell out. Do something else. Do what makes you tick. Just do what makes you tick. So I've given a number of points. I talked about the advent of metrics, HEDIS measures that look at deprescribing, right? To show some life-saving interventions. I talked about holistic medicine becoming more standardized in care. I talked about the advent of deprescribing clinics across the country. So I'm seeing that on the rise. I'm seeing non-traditional integration of geriatric pharmacists into like physical therapist models, speech therapists, dementia spaces for caregiving, dementia advocacy and patient care. I see pharmacists being embedded into the Alzheimer's Association, into dementia associations, Parkinson's. I see medication safety, if not deprescribing or med optimization, to be everyone's power when we start teaching people how to think against this reactive prescriptive habit that we just have entrenched. But I also see a future, I think this is number 4 or 5, I don't know, I'd be dropping bombs all day, but we're going to have a future of clinicians, PAs, NPs, and whatever MDs and DOs are left, since a lot are leaving. But we're going to have them train. And so I do see a future where we're going to have these people who are the advocates now teaching and coaching and training these institutes, these professional programs on how to implement it successfully using evidence-based medicine. I see a future where our pharmacists, as deprescribing advocates, particularly our geriatric trained ones, I see them becoming geriatric care consultants for families. I see them becoming geriatric care managers. I see them not only addressing the other stuff that's non-pharmacy, but I see them deprescribing and assisting and integrating into transitional care models. It's extremely hard to do transitions of care. I hope y'all, it just is. It's very hard. It's extremely difficult when you have a fragmented system. But it's probably easier if you can have someone who knows what the meds are doing and can get you off of them before they place that senior into a certain facility. Look, guys, geriatric care managers get paid on average like $120 in some cities, up to $200 an hour. And that's more than any pharmacist in most places. And they are essentially quarterbacking all types of other issues for the patient in terms of social needs, fiscal needs, legal needs, estates, trusts. There's a whole other level of it. But the shifts and the tides are turning, and pharmacists are so gifted that the versatility of what they have to offer is just unmatched when it comes to this space of medication expertise. So we're going to start seeing more awesome, cool partnerships, tracking this data and looking to see more deprescribing in adult daycare centers, in area agencies on aging, in these continuing care retirement communities, in these ACOs, these medical home models, patient-centered medical home models. That ain't going away, guys, because that's where healthcare is going. And if you don't see where healthcare is going, you're going to be stuck in where you're old. Oh, well, this is what I thought it was. No, bro, we're done with that. We're done with that now. When we start making deprescribing policy, oof, you got me. Oof, I'm there. I'm there. I'm trying to be there now. So that's why DeLon is everywhere. It's because it's a mission. It needs to be the standard. It needs to be the standard. So I gave mainly projections, but takeaways for me. In the past few years, I can't lie. The first 2 years of business did not look the same as these last 2 years of business, as it should not in most people's growth and scaling, and as you learn from the mistakes and whatnot. So the first 2 years, I don't know what the hell I was doing. I was just talking about COVID. I was just trying to educate communities of color who didn't know if this vaccine would be like Tuskegee, and this debunking myths and trying to get the community to see and bridge that educational component that was sorely lacking from a medical community that has wronged people who don't have access generally. So that was my mission. Did that for like a year and a half. Then I was like, all right, I got to kind of focus on what the hell I'm doing with geriatrics. First year of geriatrics, I wrote my first publication with the American APHA. They have this book. It's a therapeutics book. So I wrote a section for the geriatrics module talking about potentially inappropriate medications. Now, it took a while for me to write it. as in there was tons of revisions and editings and delays. But I mean, that was an amazing experience. It was my first time looking up all the data I could find on potentially inappropriate medication use, what were the classes of meds that led to the most ER visits. And it really got me using my geriatric credential in a way that hopefully can empower more people through that modular training. So that was like super dope. And that gave me some confidence because one, it was actually a life goal to be published, but I didn't think I'd be published like first kind of year and a half after starting my business. So that was super cool. I learned from that project that I'm a huge procrastinator. I learned that I'm really good under pressure. I learned that I'm really good under pressure, but that could be sometimes energetically taxing and stressful. Um, so yeah, time management is definitely not a strong suit of mine. But despite that, coming from then to now, most of what I would say has gotten me here was what was it, Delon? There's so many things that have happened. I mean, loss, quitting a couple times, nervous breakdowns, wasted money, wasted energy. I would say more wasted energy, doing things like kind of ineffectively. And I don't want that for y'all in the beginning if I can help it. That's why I created this Deprescribing Accelerator so that you don't have to learn from those pitfalls and you just can come out the bat swinging with here's what you need to do now to start building your clientele and building trust in your communities, deprescribing. But for me, yeah, I mean, my first year, I got my certificate in pharmacogenomics. So big ups and thanks to Dr. Sue Paul and Dan Krinsky from PGX 101. That's where I got my certificate from. I mean, there are tons of avenues you all can use. ASHP has one. There's Test to Learn, UF. There are many programs that can certify you to essentially understand the basics of pharmacogenomics community screening. But that was a huge accomplishment. And it was a passion of mine. I mean, I can't lie. I've been interested in pharmacogenomics literally since school. Dr. Howard McLeod is one of my mentors and role models. He's the father of pharmacogenomics, good friend of mine. And, you know, I've always had that interest and passion. But I would say during those first 2 years, though, I kind of had the wrong perception around how to listen to my clients, I guess, like how to use active listening more. I kind of came in with this, oh, we gotta do this, and that's it. That's my way or the highway. And when you're doing personalized care, concierge care, is like your way isn't always the way that's gonna be chosen. And I've had to kind of scale back my over clinicalness to simply just be. And sometimes you just got to let people talk so that you can best tune yourself to the needs of what they're really trying to say, like, or what they're not saying. And those are some soft skills you just get with repetition. But yeah, like I was more cocky with what I was doing clinically, and and I wasn't. I don't think I was always listening as best as I could. So I would say that was a huge transformation when it came to my elevation of my deprescribing services. So that was something that shifted. Another piece that helped me make it to 4 years was having a community of people to vent and talk to. Um, so I just have to share that if you don't have a village, it's gonna be real tough for you to grow and thrive your business, because there'll be a point where you need to delegate and let things go. But you need to have that like-mindedness of, this is going to work, this will happen. And it is hard to have that rock steady mindset in the beginning. But once you have it, there's nothing's a problem. Everything flows, everything, even if it may be a setback or not what you intended, there's something you've gained, there's something you learned from that. So easily the mindset shifting is the biggest lift in the beginning. And I would say some of the coaches I hired then, what they were preaching, I wasn't listening to. Like, I wasn't listening to some of my patients yet. I mean, I listened, but I wasn't actively doing what I think was best at all times, because I wasn't listening. And so I wasn't ready to receive that information until now, in this other stage, is third, fourth year of business, where it's like, okay, now the stuff they said 3-4 years ago is coming to make sense now. And God was showing me, I think I was just doing too much all in the beginning and thinking, I did everything, so it should work now. Yes, now I should have a practice. Now everyone should come. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. And it was humbling. So in turning, having our 4-year birthday with GeriatRx, I felt it best to juxtapose, my gosh, what I see in the future and where I see GeriatRx going, where I see my company going, apart from being this international consulting training around deprescribing for various health systems across the world. And of course, apart from doing concierge one-on-one stuff for people, it's really to change the aging industry. That's my vision. If it's a projection or a will or a manifestation, if you will, I will make deprescribing the standard of care in our older adults. And I can't do it alone. I'm doing it through other clinicians who are just as passionate and who are pushing the charge forward and making those micro changes in their ecosystems day to day. Like, shout out to y'all on the front lines, man. All of you are busting your butts in a very tough healthcare climate, in a very tough economy. And we have to give ourselves some grace, man, and understand that, hey, I think people are just out here trying to do the best that they can with what they got and what they know. That's really what most people are trying to do. I've had to learn to come to grips with and not just over assume everyone's out to get you. So there was some mindset shifting there, but I am very hopeful for the future of deprescribing, for the future of the aging industry, if we change the narrative now. I mean, it's going to have to start now, guys, because the cat's out the bag. We've got mad seniors. We're going to have a huge number of people 50 or 60 years old just in the next 10 years. And so what we start doing in our 50s and 60s, guess what? They end up being the caregivers for their aging loved ones, and they're raising kids, and they're going to be stressed as hell trying to take care of their aging loved ones, and they likely will not take care of themselves. So we have a huge caregiver gap in support that our healthcare system takes advantage of, because they're unpaid, and they are basically saving our healthcare system $60 billion a year in unpaid labor. So the need to address caregiving and support for caregivers, and then showing caregivers that deprescribing can actually help them save their time and headache along with the doctors, that's going to be the opportunity that geriatric pharmacists will be capitalizing on. And it's going to be the way that healthcare, I don't think healthcare will shift to fix that, but there are people that in our own worlds that are making it happen. So we really appreciate you rocking with us. I mean, for those of you who've been in the game supporting me, Delon, and GeriatRx, and what I'm doing with Deprescribing, our Deprescribing alumni, we're going to finish my goodness, we are wrapping up our fourth cohort? We're wrapping up our fourth cohort this next week. And my God, I'm so proud of them. 4 amazing individuals who trusted me, but also trust themselves to better serve for our older adults. So I am just loving what they are doing in their worlds, and I just have so much immense thanks and gratitude for my mentors who've helped me get to here. Dr. Jerika Dodd, Dr. Kenneth Schell, Ronnie Chapman has been out there, Jeff Harmon, who was one of my life coaches, spiritual coaches, Jerisha Hawk, who's taught me the online model. Golly, there's a lot. LaKoya Johnson, who's an amazing person in my corner who's helped me from the dark days. Ex-girlfriend, Deanna, who has been amazing in supporting me in my beginning stages of my business. My family, of course, first and foremost, family and friends who trusted me in helping with their loved ones, who had concerns with their papas, mimas, of course, mommy and daddy, Granny, Mildred, Miss Barbara Johnson, my second mom. Shout out to Shamika McNeil, who's constantly grown and poured into my practice. But honestly, there's mad people to continuously thank on this Deprescribing journey. But big shout out to Jay Reinstein, one of my first patients and advocates, who just had an awesome birthday. And has been one of my biggest fans and supporters, Dr. Farron Epps at Emory, who's a dementia researcher, Miss Adrienne Jones, the countless people that got me into the pharmacy space, like using podcasts and webinars, like Kim Newlove, Benas Sarani, who interviewed me for my PGX for Pharmacists podcast, Alex Barker of the Happy Farm D, Your Financial Pharmacist with Tim Albright. Oh man, the list really does go on. But I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful that I hope that this doesn't come off as in any form braggadocious or haughty. I mean, I just know in my heart how much this matters to our fellow clinicians, and I see it in my inbox. I mean, I just see the stories, I see the testimonies, I see the tears, I see the memories. The number one thing I get when I go and speak at these conferences is, I wish you were here, or I wish I had met you when XYZ was still alive. And that's like the number one response people give me when I walk into a room. I wish you were here when such and such was still alive, because I know that it was the medications. I know there was something I just couldn't address it. And as painful as that statement may be, that is what affirms the joy and passion I have, and the mission, and what I want other Deprescribing advocates to embody, to live by, to get that feeling of warm fuzzies back for our profession. Not just pharmacy, but throughout the entire health system, throughout all of aging. For our caregivers. I mean, we all are going to be a caregiver if we're not a caregiver already. So don't think you're not included. And I can tell you for damn sure, I don't even take care of myself like that. So I know I'm going to be a terrible patient when I get older. And generally, health providers are not the best patients. But I'm saying this because I have a lot of gratitude. I have a lot of joy for what I'm doing. I need for us as other pharmacists, geriatric pharmacists, yes, you, consultant pharmacists, anyone with a BCGP to reconsider what you want out of your life in the next 10 years. Do you want freedom, or do you want to actually get that feeling of joy in your work? If you have it, boom, great. I'm not talking to you. If you don't have it, how are you changing that narrative? How are you empowering someone in your church, in your neighborhood, in your kids' schools, your, I don't know, your sewing club, your bridge group, I don't care. Like, what are you doing literally to help your friends and family with what you were called to do? Because that's what this is about. This is soul work. This is alignment, soul work, with a sprinkle of clinical expertise and a sprinkle of empathy. And I want that for everyone. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in to the Red Pill versus Blue Pill. I am so grateful for you all and appreciate your time tuning in. Thank you, Doreen, for showing some love. So thank you for the words. You are such a caring person. May God continue to bless, guide, and protect you. Thank you. Doreen is a huge fan, everyone. She has been showing love. Not only has she been with me for the longest, but extremely close to my family. And so I just got to thank you for rocking with me and being a good friend to my mom, of course, in Guyana. So I appreciate that so much. But I love y'all. Appreciate everything. We will continue to be live on our Thursdays at 12. If you are a clinician looking to, and I mean, particularly any geriatric business, particularly geriatric pharmacists, but we are looking for geriatric nurses, geriatric social workers, geriatric PAs, MDs, DOs. You all can consider taking our program. 15 hours of live CE will go towards your licensure. You'll get a certified Deprescribing Advocate certificate. You'll have a community of Deprescribing alumni that are currently using Deprescribing in their worlds. You will honestly have an amazing time learning how to incorporate this into your business. This ain't stopping. This is not stopping, guys. Like, this is the movement that the aging industry needs. And I am the Morpheus, the Deprescribing pharmacist, the chief deprescriber, whatever you want to call me, but that's what's happening. And just want to share my love and passion, and I want you to have the same. So take care. We'll catch y'all next time. Apply for our Deprescribing Accelerator, okay? We start in May. We only cap at about 5 people to join, and we do these quarterly. So we will start in May, and yeah, the link is in the description. So we'll see you guys soon, and take care. Bye.